Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the UnLearnT podcast. I am your host, Ruth Abigail, aka RA,
Hello,
and
friends. It's Jaquita, your fave.
Jaquita. And this is the podcast that is helping you gain the courage to change your mind so that you and we can experience more freedom. So that's what we do. We are in this segment where we, as middle adults, talk about things we've had to unlearn from between our younger adult years and our middle adult years, and we cover all kinds of things. And
Listen, we're going to talk about it, okay?
We're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about the things.
We talk about the things. We're going to talk. That's good. So, Quita, before we get into it, tell me how you doing. How's your day?
My day is great. Good friends, I know that you guys will be listening to this on a Tuesday, but today is a Sunday, and we had a mighty high time in the Lord on this morning. So it's been a great day in the Lord. Had some good word this morning. Sang on the choir this morning. We sang a good old fast choir song.
What'd you sing?
We sang Consider It Done, Ricky Dillard.
Can you give us a little sample?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just know we did what we were supposed to do.
For those of you that don't know, if you need a strong tenor, you want to call Jaquita.
Shut up.
Jaquita is a very strong, confident tenor. And sometimes you need those in the tenor section. And so if you need an extra tenor or two, but an extra tenor, and you are looking for someone, Jaquita Ross, you want to email her or DM her on the Facebook or
First of all,
she will do it first time.
First of all, there are many things that you can email and hire me out for. Singing tenor anywhere but my good old church choir is just unfortunately not on my list of services that I offer. Although I do enjoy singing my tenor parts, but I am not a tenor for hire. Unfortunately, I really wish I was. If I could blow, let me tell you something. Like if I could really the Lord knew. He was like, I can't give her that because the way she's set up, she would never get off her high horse. I would be in there like I would be everywhere, just like, you know how they do them little hands when they sing, like I'd be doing that all day. Like I'd be like, how many unnecessary runs can I do? But yeah, no, it was a great time in the Lord. I like singing on the church choir and helping to set an atmosphere. I like to set the atmosphere for the word to come forth. So no, today.
Oh gosh. Oh boy.
And I'd like to say, middle adult, young adult, I've always enjoyed being on a choir. So that is one thing I have not unlearned the choir. I have not unlearned praise, huh? I never learned that. Okay. Amen.
All right. Thank you for that. Hi. How was your day, Ruth Abigail? Oh man, it was great.
I was getting there. Ruth Abigail, how was your Sunday? Hush. How was your Sunday, Ruth Abigail?
Well, it was good. So today is this particular Sunday we're recording on Father's Day, and
happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, man. We got some fathers that listen to us.
We do have fathers.
We do. Shout out to the fathers, man. Yeah, some really good fathers that listen to us. So y'all know who you are. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to all the fathers.
Yes.
Taking care of all the children.
So one of those that listens that's a great father is my husband. And so we celebrated him today.
Hi, Ty. Happy Father's Day, Ty.
He's like my dad. He doesn't like the idea of Father's Day. He's like, I don't, I'd rather you just, love and honor me every day. That's what my dad used to tell us growing up. And I was like, yeah, I get that. But as I've grown older, I have rebelled against that because I just think, yes, I'm going to do that every day. And I'm going to take out some special time in this moment to be intentional about showing you how much I care and saying it out loud. Even
and you're doing I'm going to,
that's what I'm going to do.
Get in there, get
and
really
so
deep in there.
The kid wrote a note um, for him. And so we did that, and that was really special. And then we went out to dinner or lunch. So my sister, my mom, my dad, and the three of us. That was fun. Then we did regular things. We went shopping, came back home. So yeah, it's been a great day. I'll be honest with y'all, I'm tired. I'm gonna give you everything I got, but I'm tired now. I ain't gonna lie to you.
We're all tired, all right, but we are here to talk to the saints and friends about our middle adult journeys, all right. So Ruth Abigail, what we talking about today, girl?
Or saints and ain'ts like Jackie Hill Perry likes to
I
say.
don't like saints and ain'ts.
Or
Well,
don't
I
like
like it, I like it, just not on camera. Saints and friends, okay, is what I normally go with. Saints and friends.
all right, when we get off, I need to understand your rationale for not liking saints and ain'ts. But
Because nobody wants to be an ain't.
I mean, I get that. I
That's
understand that.
kind of.
I think
I mean,
I
now
completely see
shout
the
out to
line.
Jackie Hill Perry. I love Jackie Hill
It
Perry.
teaches you a lot
Right,
of
and
how to
this is
like.
not. I don't want nobody out here trying to share the video saying that we out here criticizing folks. That's not what we doing.
We ain't doing nothing.
I
That
did
would
not
be
criticize anybody. I just said I like saints and friends.
you're right. You did. You
I
did.
am a
You're right.
friend
You're
of
right.
God.
You're right. Thank you. So we are going to talk about, and this is something that I don't think even on the earlier episodes of the podcast,
Mhm.
I have not really unpacked my faith journey before.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're going to do that. We're going to talk about unlearning, what unlearning what our faith journey has helped us to unlearn,
Yeah,
basically,
for sure.
um, and in different areas of our life. And so we're going to get into it. I think it's going to be really good. This is what you need to know, though. If you didn't know, which if you've listened to the podcast since it's been around, you should probably have picked up that I am certainly a Jesus follower, and Jaquita is absolutely a Jesus follower and a preacher. And so this is like core to who we are. Like this ain't
For
nothing.
sure.
This is like core to who we are. So we're just gonna go all the way in because we've never done that. And so you know, if this ain't what you feeling, cool. Wait till next week or go to one of the past episodes. But if you feel like this can encourage you, keep listening. And
Yeah.
so we're gonna unpack like our faith journeys, things we've learned along the way, and again, a Jesus follower. So we are talking about the Christian faith. I want to be clear about that. Sometimes that can get a little muddy. Um, so anyway, we're gonna get into it. So the first thing I think we wanted to level is Quita and I came from very different backgrounds.
My
So
Lord.
our unlearning journeys are very different in that. I
Mhm.
grew up in church. My
PK over there.
father, yes, my father's a pastor. Has been He's been a preacher for as long as I've been alive. He's been a pastor since I was a teenager. Is still a pastor now. I went to
A
a
very
Christian.
good pastor at that.
He is. He's a great pastor.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna throw shade. Normally I do with him, because I
No,
like to.
no, 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 no,
But
no,
I
no.
won't do that
No,
today. I won't do that
you
today.
won't while I'm on this live.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Chill out. Okay. Chill out. But you're gonna chill. But I went to school, kindergarten through 12th grade at a Christian school. And so I had a lot of faith stuff in my life, just in my day to day. Like it was just regular.
Mhm.
Bible school, Bible class, uh, you know, um, church, all that stuff. So it was just a part of me. We did Bible studies growing up at the kitchen table, 5 o'clock in the morning. Like that was nothing, right? That's what we did. So that's where I'm coming from. Quita, where are you coming from?
Man, oh man, oh man, I'm coming from a journey, friends. I let's see. So early life was in a military family, so we moved around quite a bit. Most of my core memories started in Germany. My dad was stationed over there for 4 years, and while we were over there, I don't really remember church. I don't really remember that being a part of my story. But when we came back, did go to like a very, very, very small family church for a few years until I was 12. And then when I was turned 12, like my mom moved to another side of town and we really didn't really didn't see church too much, but always kind of had God in like the back of my mind, and somewhere in my being there was an awareness of God, but there wasn't a practice of faith.
Yeah.
When we moved to Blythewood, South Carolina, amen. Shout out to my B Wood folks. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know what they calling it today, the wood. I don't know what's cool, but yeah, lived in, grew up in Blythewood through like end of middle school and all through high school, and I really was reintroduced to God through my friends first, right? I had really, really good friends who really, really followed God and loved God, and we were all trying to just kind of grow in God together. We were like grouping up, praying for certain things, talking about God. And but my senior year in high school, joined the gospel choir. Okay, we were talking about that choir. I told y'all when I
Oh, that's
joined that choir in high school, I never left. I never left. I got a good taste of the choir, and I said, this is me. This is where I belong. And I tell people when they ask me, because people who think that they have the prophetic gift, they always come up to me and they're like, Jaquita, I see something on you. I know your gift. You are anointed to sing to the nations. And I'm like, no, 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 baby. No, and what I tell them is that I sing well enough to that they let me on the choir, but that they don't pass me the mic. So, you'll never see me like leading a song. You're gonna see me in the back, holding down my note. That's what I can do. That's
holding down
that's
the note.
that's my capacity. But I had really, really great friends who, took me to church. They would come and pick me up. And then when we joined the gospel choir, it became everything was about singing praises unto our God and worship through song. Like literally midnight musicals, going here, there, and everywhere, singing with the choir, So everything came about that. And then one day I was on the choir and I was like, hey friends, am I saved? They keep doing this little call to salvation at the end of the concert. And I was like, I don't know if I'm saved or not. And I said, I tell you what, next concert, when they do that little, hey, anybody wanna come to Jesus? I said, next concert it's my time. All right. And then the day that I got to that concert, y'all, I was wrecked. Like the concert was, I mean, it was a midnight musical. We were there 3 hours. The moment I stepped in the building, I was crying. I
Mm,
was just like overcome by the presence of God. By the
mm,
time that man asked if anybody wanted to give their life to the Lord, I was the first one up there because I knew that that was my day. And so that was kind of like my walk through faith. It was kind of like I was always on the outskirts of it. But then one day I just kind of just fully gave myself to it and never looked back, man. And I've
mm.
been full steam ahead ever since. So, I got saved when I was 18 years old. It was a good time.
That's beautiful. And I,
Yeah.
I, I, so I hope that, maybe through this conversation, you can find yourself somewhere in between that. So, I used to always think, for those of you that grew up in church, I used to always think I'd have a testimony because it was so embedded in my life. And so I would hear stories like Quita's and be like, man, like, I don't really have no story. Like, I don't really know how to tell it. Like, I got baptized at 6. Now, I will say the main reason I got baptized at 6, I went up to say I want to be saved, I want to be baptized. I really wanted to get in the pool. And that was my motivation. I said, I want to get in the pool.
Mm.
I think it'd be fun to swim in church. I want to be baptized. And so but as I, to me, that was just like regular life. It wasn't anything
Mm-hmm.
for me. The moment that I actually, the moment that I actually committed myself to Christ was my sophomore year of college. So when I was 20, I think it was I think it was the summer of my, um,
Oh, I remember.
yeah, the summer of
I
my sophomore year.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I would say, like, I decided I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
be in this for real. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was kind of, but I had it, all the knowledge. I was already in it. I didn't. So anyway, we'll get into all that, but that's kind of where we're coming from. Um, so Quita, what? what is something that, so you're going to hear a couple of things, a couple of big thoughts that we have about what we've unlearned. I think each one of us are going to do two or three. We'll see. Um, and so, what is something you've unlearned um, between for you, like the beginning of your
Mm-hmm.
kind of adult years, and now around your faith journey?
Sheesh, you know what I just thought about, Ruth Abigail? It's been this year will be our next year will be 20 years
Mm,
since I gave my life to the Lord. And
wow.
that is
Yeah, that's beautiful.
bananas.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first started just being like everything felt so new, and everything felt so exciting and so passionate. And there's no greater decision that I've made since then. It's been the most impactful choice of my life, and something that I wouldn't trade for the world. But I think that's something that I really had to unlearn, because when I first got saved, I remember I got saved the summer before we started college at
Mm,
Furman. So I got saved in August 24th of that year that I graduated high school. I got saved that year, and then I went straight to Furman, and I was like, I gotta find a church home. I gotta, I remember the first thing that that Christmas of my freshman year, I asked my mom, I said, I don't care what else I get for Christmas, I want a Bible, because I didn't have my own
mm,
Bible. And so one of the things that I really had to unlearn was that fervor, that
mm.
excitement, that passion, like just that feeling of everything being new and driving and pushing, like how I engaged with the idea of my faith and with God and with my journey. I had to learn that the fervor that I had in the beginning of my walk with God was not going to be what continued to fire kind of my passion for continuing in it. And
Yeah.
not that I ever wanted to quit, but there were times where you get really stale. There are
Yeah.
times where you just get really the word is lazy. The word
Yeah.
really is lazy.
Yeah.
The word, there are
Yeah.
times where you just like where you take God for granted, you take your
Yeah.
faith for granted, and you're just like, oh yeah, faith is there, God is there, the Bible is there. And even though you're talking about it, in a way that makes it seem like, oh yeah, I love God. I had to learn that discipline would be what would continue to determine the direction of my faith walk. And
Come
I
on.
had to learn that when there was no passion, there had to be discipline.
Come on.
And not discipline where I'm reading the Bible out of a sense of obligation, but like your discipline has to be paired with a high sense of value. I'm
Yeah.
becoming disciplined because I value this part of my life. And a lot of times, we do things because we have to, right? I started doing it because I needed to.
Yeah.
Like the discipline is necessary for me to upkeep the anointing on my life, for me to upkeep my call, for me to upkeep everything that I'm charged to, for me to upkeep my sanity. We talk about how the gifts of the spirit are given, liberally, faith, peace, love, joy, meekness. I never do them in order. Kindness, long suffering. I really need to learn the order, because I just be yelling them out. Uh,
Yes.
Ruth's like, finally, a scripture Jaquita doesn't know. I don't know them all. I promise I don't. But it's a goal. It's a
Logical.
we're gonna talk about that later in my what it means to be holy spiel. But I had to learn that like my well being was dependent on my ability to add that discipline to my direction. And it really made all the difference. When I was in my 20s, you remember when we were roommates. I would get up at like 6. So my meeting time with God was at 7 a.m. And I was like, I am going to meet the king. Okay. So I would get up like 30 minutes early. I would get dressed. I will, make sure I look good for my king, which I still do sometimes. Don't play with me, right? Make sure I look good for the Lord. And I would leave. Me and Ruth shared a room at the time, so I would go out onto the porch. I think I like dragged the chair out there, and I'm sitting out there on the porch, and I would spend my time with the Lord from like 7 to 7:45. It was me and the Lord before I went to class, and I was like, oh, I would come in, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm just guys, I'm so on fire for God. I am not a morning person, like, but the fire, the
Yeah.
excitement of that, like, fueled me to like push into it. And so, now when the Lord's like, let's meet, daughter, at 7 a.m., I'd be like, Lord, did you say 7? I didn't know. I didn't know if you wanted to meet, like, like, I gotta hold on, let me, I got a couple of meetings. You want me at 7, Lord? I gotta be
Yeah.
to the Clemson. I gotta be to the work. Got to be to
I
work at
have
8:30.
7:05 to 7:20. Like, is that
Yeah, like I'm like, okay, Lord,
there? Yeah.
do you would you? Oh, you want me? Okay, hold on, Lord. Well, then I'll be rolling out of the bed onto the floor, like, right. But like that same fire doesn't always push through in those moments, right? And so I've had to learn that the discipline, because anytime God tells me meet me at 7, and I do, everything I need is in that meeting. Everything I need for the day, everything I need for my spirit, everything, the answers I'm asking God for, the things I've been praying to God about, it's in that 7 a.m. meeting. Whereas when I was in my 20s, I would have ran to it. In my 30s, I'd be like, these bones don't work. My
Mm.
body, the 8 hours of sleep, Jesus, But I've had to learn that the discipline of it is what keeps my walk. And not necessarily like the fire and the passion, which it's still there, but the discipline fuels it um alongside of it. What are your thoughts?
So there's a quote from Denzel Washington, who is also, I believe, a proclaimed
He's a believer.
um, believer, Jesus follower. He said, without commitment, you'll never start, but more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish.
Mm.
I think that speaks very much to what you're saying. I think that it also is a little bit of a callback to when we were talking about um, the we were talking about the difference between in work, like passion versus building a skill, and how the book So Good They Can't Ignore You really speaks to, like, hey, this principle of following your passion can be dangerous because, to your point, passion is not going to be the fuel all the time. There are going to be
Mm-hmm.
moments where you're not passionate. So what brings you, what makes you keep going when you're not passionate? His argument is you need to build up a skill, and building up skills does take discipline. You have to be disciplined to learn. And I yeah, like that. I think that's such a real relevant point that is, when in the context of faith, sometimes overlooked. The discipline part, the learning part, the skill building part,
Mm-hmm.
the so it takes
Dedication.
dedication. So, like, we'll just take, okay, reading and understanding the Bible isn't something that just comes because you say you love God.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take practice, right? Um, Worship takes practice. Prayer
Mm-hmm.
takes practice. These spiritual disciplines that we talk about and that you hear about take practice. It's not something that automatically happens because you said, okay, now I want to follow God. I want to do something. I want to change my life, or I want to get to know God better. However, wherever you are, like, it takes practice. And so I think that's a misconception that a lot of young people have. Like, so the revival that happened in I've lost the city, the
Oh
college.
Lord, where was that revival at? I know where you're
Yep,
talking about.
yep. It's gonna come to us in a second, but y'all know what we're talking about. It's gonna come to us. We're gonna get it. We're gonna look it up. But that incredible display of young people was a display of passion, right? I mean, it ended up
Mm-hmm.
being 3 days or something. I mean, it ended up being a while, right? Where they basically had to shut down the town because people kept flooding the town because they wanted to come and experience this passion that these young people had started. And the question that I love that and I celebrate that, and I also the question that I always have, and I don't know this particular campus or movement intimately, so I'm not speaking on that, but I do know a lot of stories where
Asbury.
Asbury, thank you,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Asbury. So at Asbury University, there was a revival. This was last year, wasn't it? Was this last year, 2023? I think it was 2023, either 23 or 22. I think it
Yeah, I
was
think
20.
so. 22 or
Um,
23.
and they it started off with just a worship night, and it lasted for several days, and it brought people from all over the country. I know a couple of people from Memphis that went to experience it, and it's a beautiful sight. I mean, I experienced it through social media, like most people did, but it was a beautiful sight. I do ask the question, what's next? What
Mm.
maintains that? Because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the option of staying on your knees in worship, feeling the presence of God that strongly forever. They had to shut it
Mm.
down. They had to ask people to leave because the town could not function. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens when it's over? And so my concern is that sometimes we are so excited about those moments, that about the mountaintop moments, if you will, that we don't put the energy into maintaining the mundane moments, because
Mm-hmm.
those are going to be more. You're going to have more mundane moments than mountaintop moments in your faith. So the question is, do you have to have a mountaintop moment to be excited? Do you have to have a mountaintop moment to feel the presence of God? Do you need that? If you do, you're going to experience it very little because those moments
Mm.
don't happen very often.
Yeah.
But learning how to move through the mundane of just day to day, regular life, and still have that uh, uh, be able to connect with God in the mundane, I think
Yeah.
is the secret sauce to a growing faith walk. Like
Yeah.
it's got to be growing. So and I too, like when I was younger, it was there was a certain level of excitement around a newness to this commitment, right? This man, like I just did something I've never done before. Now
Mm-hmm.
I wanna be all in, and you you get to a point where things get normal. I mean, we do that. That happens all the time. It
Yeah.
happens in friendships. It can happen in marriages. It happens at the job.
Yeah.
The new part is the fun part, and then you
Mm-hmm.
get used to it, and it's not so fun anymore. Um, you know what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah.
okay. So yeah, I resonate with that, and I
Yeah.
think it's a great point, and I think that discipline part, man, it takes work.
It's so
It takes work.
necessary. And the thought that just came to my mind is that when you look at all of our biblical predecessors, when you look at Moses, when you look at Abraham, when you look at Joseph, when you look at Jacob, when you look at even Ruth and Esther, like their faith journeys were marked by the things that they didn't want to do. And a
Mm,
lot of times we push this, oh, I just love just spending time with God and I just love,
yeah, me too.
just laying out before Him. But your assignment, like when I first began my walk with God, it was all about being in God's presence and feeling His love and the affirmation and the things that I was learning about God and just growing in God. But when
Yeah,
it became leading in God, like when it became uh um standing with God in certain instances in my life, and like it being more about an assignment or a gift, like I had to learn God in a different way, because it wasn't just it was then not just about what I wanted to do, it was about what God wanted from my life.
yeah,
And when you add the weight of responsibility and call, I'm just thinking about Esther being like, I don't want to go up to the king and risk my life asking
Right.
him to save my people. I don't want to do that. I don't want to risk nothing. But her cousin Mordecai saying to her, what if you were born for such a time as this? The weight of that produces a different type of walk,
Yeah, it
right? It
does.
produces a different type of trust. It produces a different type of faith, where again, it's not about fervor. It is about, like, I have to give all of me to God. It's about
Yeah.
surrender,
Yeah.
right? It's less about, like, you're no longer frolicking through those, new beginning tulips. Like,
Yeah.
you are having to surrender something, right? And in that surrender, like, you found that you don't always realize that you're going to gain so much more than you get. It feels risky, and there's a
Yeah.
level of fear. But I think that one thing that I really learned, one thing that I had to unlearn so that I could learn a new way, was
Mm-hmm.
that it is not just how I'm setting up my faith. I was like, okay, so my devotion time is this, and I'm going to sing 3 songs to the Lord, and I only listen to gospel music, and da 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 da. It is not how you set up your faith, it is how you set up your life, right?
Yeah.
I had a mentor tell me that our lives are not compartmentalized. You don't get to have a faith life and a leadership life and a church life and a work life and a a morning life and a late night life, although
Yeah.
some of us got, different lifestyles, but it's not compartmentalized. Every part of my life is touching the other parts of my life, and God is looking at my bigger picture and my bigger story, right? And so as I'm thinking about my faith walk, I'm also thinking about my career. As I'm thinking about my faith walk, I'm also thinking about my friendships. As I'm thinking about my faith walk, I'm also thinking about relationships. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also thinking about leadership. I'm also thinking about, my health. I'm thinking about my wellness. I'm thinking about my money, okay, my coin, my bag, okay, right? So my faith walk was not, the older I became, the more it became not just faith, but this is my life.
Yeah.
Like, and faith touches every part of my life. And so when we're thinking about disciplining ourselves towards that, I discipline my conversations with my friends. I discipline my thought life about my workplace environment. I discipline my finances. I discipline myself with my health. Like, right, like, because it all encompasses faith. Whereas before I was just like, my devotion time is 7 a.m. and I
Right.
go to church every Sunday. Amen. Bless you. Right now, like, it's not just I'm a believer, I am a disciple. I am a follower. Like, I have surrendered. And once you get past that point of surrender, your life becomes about this thing. And so I definitely think that that was something I had to unlearn from my 20s, that it wasn't so much about the routine as it was about the surrender.
So there's an illustration that you've probably seen, uh, and I don't have the right tool in front of me, but if you can imagine like a jar, like a glass jar about that big, and you have in front of you rocks, pebbles, sand, and
Mm-hmm.
water. And so I saw this first years ago at church in a young adult service, and somebody was doing this. So they did the thing, okay, like what are the most important things in your life? And invariably, the first thing people say is God, church, faith,
Mm-hmm.
family. Okay, those are rocks. We're going to put those in the jar. What are the next most important things? Friends, work, those types of things, right? Okay, those are the smaller pebbles. Cool. So the next most important things, the sand, what I entertainment, what I enjoy doing, my
Mm-hmm.
passions, my hobbies, that's sand. And then
Mm-hmm.
everything else is water. So you have to put it in that order for it to fit in the jar. If you put the water in first, your big rocks aren't going to be able to, they're going to just float to the top. Put the
Yeah.
sand in first, it's going to take up too much space. You can't fit all your rocks in. So that's the idea, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
the jar. You
Yeah.
want to put your big rocks in. And something she said that I'll never forget was that we look at the jar as our life. And she kind of what she said was, now I want you to flip it, because everybody put the or most people include God as a rock. And instead of
Mm.
doing that, I want you to see God as the
Ooh.
jar.
And we putting all of me into the jar?
That that changed the way I saw my journey.
Yeah, that's
That,
good.
that changed the way I saw my journey. Shout out to Jessica Morris, Reverend Jessica Morris, who gave that
Shout
example
out to
years ago. I
Reverend
don't know if you
Jessica
remember it,
Morris.
but man, that really changed me. And just a shameless plug.
Ooh.
Jessica and I had a great conversation. She was one of my very first interviews for our series Unlearning Religion. Great, great, great series, but a great conversation. And if y'all want to hear more from her, go back into the archives, listen to that episode. I think you'll really be, man.
That's
She does a
good.
lot of amazing things, challenging things, things that'll make you think. But that stuck with me. It's like, yo, I put all of me into God.
Mm,
God is not a rock. God is the jar. And so, to your point, we have to see our lives as as fully integrated into God's story
that's good.
for us, right?
That's good.
And so yeah, I love that. And anyway, yeah, thank you for that.
No, that's really good because I think even one of my what was going to be a later point, but I'm going to start integrating it now, is that like the idea of like holiness being like what I'm doing, like like, and like
Yeah.
we're trying to build a story that's centered around us.
Yes.
Like this is what I do, and this is how I talk, and this is how I engage people. And it can really become legalistic because your story then is becoming about you. And you are so focused on you that you are missing the fact that God is the jar.
That's man.
That God is the jar, and that the reason that I'm living my life a certain way is because I'm putting it into a jar that is
Mm,
holy. I'm putting it into a jar that is righteous. And so I have to mold myself toward the jar. Like the jar is what makes me good.
yeah.
Right.
That's
It's got, and then when people look at me, ooh, girl, I could preach that. When people look at me and
the
say they
jar.
see God, it's because I'm inside of
I'm the jar.
girl.
They don't
Tell
see you.
her, tell her
Good.
I'm gone. I just need to just borrow that.
But let me tell you something,
Okay.
man. It changed, and I'm so grateful I heard it
Yes.
at that young age. Now I cannot say that everything about me changed in that moment. But
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I can remember it so vividly, I remember it, I can see it in my mind, the illustration, and I draw that up often to remind myself that when I begin to make God a part of my life and not everything that's inside
Mm.
of it, if everything's on the side of Him,
Yeah.
I, I come back to that and say, hold on, that's not the way this works. God is not a rock. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. That's not how this works. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm grateful that I got that early
Yeah.
because it has gotten harder to not make God a rock the older I've gotten
Yeah.
because so many other things become important. To your point, when you're younger, most of what your life is revolves around you. It's not. It's you don't have a lot of responsibilities. When we were in college, we didn't have a lot of responsibilities. We had to get ourselves a class. We had to get ourselves a degree, and we had to get ourselves a job. I mean, that was our focus for 4 or 5 years.
We was
So
out there
this
chilling
was
and didn't
not.
know.
It wasn't.
When I
That
think
was
back
our
to
focus. I'm not saying
college
everybody's
and
focus,
think
but that
about
was
how
ours. And
stressed
I
I
would dare say
was,
that's
I was
a
just
lot
like, for what?
of people. It's a lot of people. You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of people in that stage of life. You have a lot of
Mhm.
that's where your head is.
Yeah.
And so as you begin to add things to you, it becomes harder
Girl, that's so good.
to see it becomes harder to integrate God when I see him as a rock. It's
Yeah.
just harder. Um, and I think that's just a real thing that we need to be honest about. And and I feel like, and I love the way you put it, man. I've had to do that. I've had to unlearn that same thing, and I'm not perfect at it. I definitely was better at spending more quality time with God when I was younger than I am now, no doubt. Um, one thing I will say this, and I'll say this and we'll pivot because I think um, for the people who identify with me, I hope this point will be resonate with you. But the presence of God to me, I think one of the things that I've had to unlearn, and my hope is that other people begin to unlearn it, is that the presence, being in the presence of God, has not done its full work until you are prepared to go and work. God is not concerned about how you are just with you and Him. He's way more concerned about what you're doing out in the world, how you're representing Him, what you are, what you're, the way you walk out in the world. God talks way more about that than He does about in the Bible. It talks way more about that than it does just kind of um, the what's the word I'm looking for? These high moments where we are having this very intense connection to God, and we walk away. If when that happens, you walk away feeling really good, and it stops there, something didn't happen that was supposed to happen. You miss the point of being in the presence of God. You be in the presence of God so that you can be prepared to go out and live for God. And I think that's something that I've had to unlearn over the years. When that passion is so, that passion is very intense and it's very high. We sometimes can take that and bottle it up and keep it for us, because it's like, this is my moment. This is me and the Lord. It's me and the Lord. It's me and the Lord. It's like, yeah, but we got to move forward in that. It's you and the Lord, so that you can go out and make a difference in wherever you are, so that you have the strength, the wisdom, the all the things you need to make that difference. So I think that that's an important step, and that's part of the discipline.
Yeah.
Is I am in God's presence so that I can be prepared for something. It's not just about
Listen,
me.
and sometimes the something is not, as intimidating as we make it. I remember I heard a preacher say that, like, when Jesus said, greater works will you do than what you've seen me do. Like, the greater works, some of that greater works was having a family, right? Some of that greater works was raising children. Some of that greater works was like being able to go out in the world and disciple and push forward the kingdom of God. But it is like, I think a lot of times we think that what God is calling us to is something that is beyond us, but sometimes it's what's in front of you. Like,
Yeah,
God is calling you to have stewardship over what He's given you,
yeah,
right? And I don't care how small the thing is that you think that you have. I don't care how small you think your assignment is, how small you think your gift is, how small you believe that the purpose that God has given you. Number one, it's not small. Number two, you are going to need the presence, the wisdom, the direction, the encouragement, the affirmation. You're going to need God. You're going to need God to make it from step to step. And I don't, even for the people who, I have a very charismatic gift, right? And so sometimes it can be easy for me and for, honestly, other people to get wrapped up in the charisma of my gift and
mm,
say, oh, she got it because she loud.
yeah,
Like, oh, she got the spirit because, she said something that was really, insightful. No, right? It is the presence of God that makes the difference. I've been studying Joseph just a little bit. I'm about to go deeper in. I actually did my initial sermon about Joseph. So the Lord has been sending me back, and I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, uh-oh. Anytime the Lord take you back to one of your origin scriptures, you you should be mindful. But I've been studying Joseph, and when Joseph was at Potiphar's house, not it said that Potiphar recognized that the Lord was with him. And so he gave Joseph everything he had and said, Joseph, go and take charge over all my household. And it said Potiphar didn't even know what was in his house. All he knew was that there was food on the table and everything was taken care of. And then when
Mm-hmm.
Joseph was sent to the prison, it said that the prison guard recognized that God was with Joseph, and he gave Joseph charge over everything. How did these people who didn't even know the Lord know that God was with Joseph?
Yeah.
Because it's the glass jar, man. Right? They see that you are everything about you is inside of something that is so much bigger than you. But I can't go from place to place. I can't do what God has assigned me to do if I'm not allowing myself to sit in his presence so that people can see the God in me and not the me in me. And
Yeah.
sometimes, that was definitely something that I had to unlearn in my 20s, because in my 20s I was really focused on, the show. you know, Here is the exhibition of Jaquita the Believer. I would like to invite you all to the Jaquita is Saved show, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it was, what do I need to pray like? What do I need to talk like? What do I need to walk like so that other people will look at me and affirm to me that they see the God in me? I was waiting to hear it from them. Like I was, and there were moments in my 20s, Ruth Abigail, where I literally, when I think of some of my lowest moments in my 20s, because the 20s was like, the 20s is almost like adult puberty. Like it is like, like the figuring yourself out, the understanding yourself, the believing in yourself, the like, oh, is this a gift? Are you sure this is my gift? You think this is my gift? I
Yeah.
think this might be my gift. Okay, it's my gift. Right. Like, like the 20s had a lot of that. But I remember like there were so many people around me in my like mid 20s telling me, like, Jaquita, you have so much potential, but you're not reaching any of it. You're not doing anything with your life, like, and I just felt so disheartened because it wasn't what they were saying, it's what I believed about what they were saying.
Yeah.
I believed that because they were saying that I wasn't walking in potential and purpose, that I wasn't saved enough, that I
Mm.
wasn't good enough for God, that I hadn't gotten to a place where God could accept me and could mold and shape me and push me forward. It was what I believed about what they were saying.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, it took us some time once we got into these middle adult years. It took us some time because you were so focused on what they said that you have never addressed what you believed,
That's really
right?
good.
And I believe that other people's opinions of me matched the opinion of God
Man.
about me.
Yeah.
And it completely derailed me for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, and it wasn't even, I can't even verify that what I thought they believed is what they actually believed. But the way I was ingesting what they were saying about me created a stronghold that created a sense of fear that I literally low key, very, very low key, like the lowest of the keys, like just like maybe like 2 days ago, I had to address
Yeah.
because I had to sit the Lord. I was talking to the Lord and I was like, Lord, I really, if you put two options in front of me and you say, Jaquita, you could take this easy road and you may have like a middle of the road life, but it'll be easy. Or you could take this hard road, but at the end of the hard road, there will be great fortune and prosperity. Just a week ago, Jaquita would have been like, give me the easy road and I'm gonna make it work. Okay. And I had to ask the Lord, I said, Lord, why am I afraid to do hard things?
Yeah.
Like, like it's not that I don't do them, it's just that I can sometimes
You
be
had the
crippled.
choice.
I
Yeah.
can be crippled by the fear of it. And
Yeah.
it was just like literally 2 days ago that I realized that it was something from my 20s. It was that same little strategy that the enemy used in my 20s where I internalized a belief about myself that said you're not good enough,
Mm.
and if you try you will fail, and it crippled me and prevented me from ever starting anything. And so I had to be mindful. Now that I'm a middle adult, I don't just allow thoughts to just run without getting checked. I
Yeah.
had to take a step back and say, okay, God, what belief am I facing now that is preventing me from trying this hard thing? Right.
Yeah.
And the Lord was like, Jaquita, what do you believe about yourself that you have internalized that prevents you from seeing yourself the way that I see you?
Yeah.
Right. Somebody in church today said, okay, he said, some of us need to see ourselves the way the devil sees us. Because if you want to know, I know, right? It was good. It was good. It was good. Shout out to Corey Terry. I'm sorry. If it needs to be bleeped out, you can go. But that man was preaching today, okay? Preaching my life up and down. But like, and it all just clicked for me because I said, Lord, I'm not seeing myself correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I'm not seeing the reason why the attacks are being set up, it's because I don't see the potential of who I really am. And
Yeah.
at my big old age, right, I'm still having to talk to myself about my beliefs about
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
right? Because what makes you think that you're not big enough, bad enough, purposed enough, gifted enough, anointed enough, right? That you don't have enough God backing you, that you can't go do the hard things,
Yeah.
right? And so it was just a moment that I realized I'm hanging on to something from my 20s that is persisting. It's an old belief system that and everything that I'm afraid of has nothing to do with me and everything to do with people around me.
Yeah.
Because I'm really afraid that somebody else is going to look at me and say, she don't know what she's doing.
Yep.
She don't know what she's doing. She out here freestyling, which I might be, but
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that's the fear. I had to learn to see myself when the Lord in my 20s, when he took me to the side, and I remember I was driving one day and the Lord said, you're you're on time, you're right in my timing, you're not behind. That broke everything for me.
Wow.
That broke everything for me because I realized that, like, I was walking with God
Mm.
and that God had my back.
Can I be honest with you?
Her thinking face just
This
came on,
was
so I'm
not.
scared.
No. Don't be serious. Really,
Okay,
it's
go ahead.
just no. I This wasn't part of the plan, but I am feeling like we should stop here and do a part two because what I think the things that have been shared. If you've been paying attention, we've only gotten to one point, and and and
No, I did half of my other one. I did
it's
half of my other one.
absolutely hilarious to me. And also, I feel like this is just too weighty to add to. Like, we don't need to add any other points to this. Um, there's so much, and I'm just sitting here. I'm sitting here listening, and I don't. It's like I don't think we need to add anything. Like, I'm not gonna add a point. This is enough. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna come back to part two because I both Quinn and I work with younger people. If you've been listening a while, you know that. And so we have a passion for the younger generation and particularly this area of it. We approach it in different ways. We have different gifts within our and so we connect to different people in different places in their walk. And but I think one of the commonalities is this kind of what we've been talking about in, you know, what happened when my life wasn't the way it was when I found God.
Mm,
What happens when it's different?
yeah.
What happens when I'm not living in the same world as I was when I connected to Him first?
Mm-hmm.
And what do I do about that? Because all of this to me is encompassed with that in that framework. Like in my 20s, in my teens, you know, as a child, this was my initial connection with God. And then I kept living. I grew older. I made some different decisions. I met some different people. I had some different
Mm.
experiences. Well, what do I do now? Like,
Yeah.
how do I continue? And should it even be that I get back to what I had? Or if not, what am I striving for? And so there is this, and I think a lot of people, myself included, you get weary with that. And it's very easy to just lean on your old connection every now and again just to get you through.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
that's not God wants more for you than that. He wants
Mm-hmm.
more. And to your point, part of that is seeing yourself as more than
Mm.
the individual you were when he found you.
Yeah.
He is growing you every day. And he's growing you in a way that is um, he's growing you for a purpose every day that is
Mm-hmm.
connected to his will every day.
Yeah.
And
Every day.
if we don't keep that current and keep that connection current, we will often, I believe, find ourselves going again, traveling back to who we were and not
Mm.
connecting myself today to God today. Like
Mm-hmm.
what where are we today? I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense, but I do feel like that is, I don't know. Let's land there, and we're gonna do a part two and do do some other points that I think hopefully are relevant. But send this, share this with somebody um, that is that that's like, man, they really are interested in following God, thinking about following God, just got started, been doing it for a while, kind of feel stuck, not really sure where to go, need a little encouragement. If you know anybody who fits those categories, share this with them. And then let us know what they think, or if you listen to it, let us know what you think. We want to hear from you. Um, you know, there you go. That's all I've got. That's it, Queen. What you think?
Nah, that was good. Listen, you guys, spend some time, regardless of where you are in your faith journey right now, spend some time just reevaluating that and say, God, what do I need to do today to connect with the God of today? Right. And we want to hear about what you guys are hearing from God, what you learned about, what you learned and unlearned about your faith journeys. Listen, dialogue with us. Throw it in the chat. Some people been saying some funny stuff, man. Y'all some funny people, right? But we really enjoy engaging with you guys. And I definitely really, really want to hear back from you guys on this subject. So if you need to direct message us, or if you just want to put it underneath the post or underneath our YouTube videos, we would love to engage with you guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so that we can continue unlearning with you guys, because this is important work. And the work that we've done here in this hour that we've been on is just the beginning. And the work that we've been doing in our life is just a testament. And we know that God is working in your life as well. So we want to just fellowship with you guys in that.
All right, people. Until next week, let's keep unlearning together so that we can experience more freedom. All right. Peace.